So, Kurt, thank you for that podcast. I enjoyed listening to it very much, sir.
Excellent. Zilch, also the size of Dave's condoms.
And also the amount of hair on your head.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's not get personal. All right. Letter number 7.
No, I knew you were going to make a comment, so I was just waiting for it.
You always have one in the holster.
I got it in my back pocket just waiting for you.
You always got one in the holster. Letter number 7 is Anthony Butrico, and he says, I believe looking back now that Ed knew in the back of his head that he had 3 to 5 years to live, and he may not have had the chance to play with his son Wolfie. So I do believe it's a work of God making sure that these two got to do what they love to do and that they were able to eat and sleep and breathe Van Halen music, and they got to spend more time together. Mikey, I feel, should never feel disrespected by Ed because he should look that he gave his friend and the bandmate that avenue for his son to spend all that extra time together before Ed passed. If you think about it, Wolf would have missed out on being with his father while his father was off on tour. He got to spend all that extra time with him. Mike should feel that was a blessing. You know, Anthony, that is all nice and good, and that's fine. However, I think that although Eddie's passed, and not to, bash on the guy or anything, I just think some of his comments that he made about Mike were unwarranted. He made some really kind of cutting marks about playing and that he wasn't a great bass player and all that stuff. Listen, I'm glad he got to spend the time with Wolf and all the time that they did together. I think that's all lovely, but some of the comments were a little rough. So what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, they were a little rough.
Yep.
I think it was a little unfair.
Yep.
So.
Letter number 8 comes from Rachel from London. Now, lots of women here, Dave. She says, David Lee Roth, in regarding his retirement, received such brutal and unkind criticism from Sammy Hagar and Gene Simmons recently, and it's been relentless with their comments in the media. I can't help but feel resentful towards Sammy for bashing David Lee Roth on the sole purpose of promoting himself, and I'm really going to miss David Lee Roth. He's an icon, and I hope he continues to enjoy his retirement. What a unique talent. Long live DLR. I get the feeling that Alex Van Halen won't be performing again either. Van Halen was a beast, one of the most successful bands of all time in history. So, yeah, Rachel, David Lee Roth definitely is bowing out gracefully. Sam bashes Dave out of insecurity and always has. He's threatened by David Lee Roth era, overshadowing his era. And as far as Al, who knows? Probably not. If he is at least working with Don Landy in the DNA lab studios there, that's fine with me. So maybe he's doing something there for all of us. Who knows? We'll have to see. What do you think, Dave?
That's a great question. I don't know what Don Landy's going to concoct these days.
I don't know.
Going to cross my fingers and hope for the best. But, in Van Halen land, you've learned to never hold your breath for this kind of stuff.
That's right. Letter number 9 comes from Kurt, 5150 Snyder from the 5150 show. And he says, you spoke about Live Without a Net's 35th anniversary last month, and I agree. A Blu-ray release of the show. What do you think about this? A Blu-ray edition could have all the songs cut out, such as Good Enough, You Really Got Me, Addicted to Love, Wild Thing and Dreams, maybe add alternate camera views via an interactive Blu-ray DVD, or also tack on the Van Halen Unleashed special from MTV. Who wouldn't buy that? Kurt, 5150 Snyder. Yes, Kurt, totally correct on all points, but unfortunately we are beyond the physical media at this point. It's kind of outdated, and to be honest with you, the reason why they don't do it is it costs too much to do for very little payoff. Back in the day, when they were putting these things out and people were buying them up, it's one thing. Plus, Van Halen doesn't do anything in terms of legacy, so I don't think Live Without a Net is going to get the attention it deserves. However, I totally agree with your thought process, and sometimes other companies can get these things going, but Van Halen has everything on lockdown, so no one can really touch it. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I'd love to see it, but I don't know. Is anyone still doing Blu-rays and stuff like that anymore? It just
for movies, back in the day when Dave and I were younger, we used to get the VHS tapes, even the DVDs at the time, and we'd collect them and stuff like that. No one's doing this anymore, guys. Everything's YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. For Christ's sake, I just watched a documentary that Stephen Pearcy from Rat is doing on himself, and he's putting it on YouTube. Everything just goes to YouTube.
That does not surprise me at all.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That Stephen Pearcy is doing one on himself.
On himself, yeah, exactly.
It's nice to know that his ego is still intact.
Dave, another woman, letter number 10, Sarah Riskas from Scotland. All the ladies are coming out there. This is unbelievable. The question is, Gene Simmons recently made unkind comments about bloated Elvis on the bathroom floor aimed at David Lee Roth and his age. Now, David Lee Roth is doing his last 5 farewell concerts. The last one is on the 8th of January, and that's Elvis's birthday. The message David Lee Roth has given comes across as cryptic. Many fans have commented. It appears that he may have some terminal illness. Who knows? Is this all a coincidence? All of a sudden, Gene's comment, the date of the last show, the Elvis connection. Is David Lee Roth about to die? Remember Michael Jackson in 2009 when he booked all those shows at the O2 Arena? He started with 10 and he ended up with like 100 shows, and his record company made millions. The David Lee Roth setup sounds eerily familiar, and I hope it is not. And David Lee Roth has a fantastic retirement and many years to come. Sarah Rizkak from Scotland. Oh, well, Sarah, my lord, this is kind of a weird coincidence. David Lee Roth is not like Elvis at all. You know, he's not that kind of guy. He's way more together than Elvis, even though he's, you know, nutty and on his own plane, but he's not like Elvis drugged out level type of thing. So I don't think you have to worry about that. I also don't think he's in Michael Jackson's position either. I hope he's okay. I think might be just a physical, muscular elements. I know that Dave used to have a massage therapist, I think, that used to literally work him out to go on stage, and then when he came off the stage, I think he would like shower, a hot shower, and then be worked on again, who used to travel with him throughout every freaking show. So I think Dave's been pushing it for a while, and I think he probably just needs the rest in terms of his body. So what do you think, Dave?
Like we said earlier, I think there's been a lot of talk about Dave's health, and seems like a lot of people are so quick to jump to conclusions that he's on his deathbed, and, you know, there's just no evidence of that. The guy's retiring. Everybody retires. I don't understand why he can't retire without everyone thinking that he must be dying, and that's why he's not performing anymore.
Well, I mean, he was very odd in his statement. It's not like he said, hey,
he's
guys.
odd in every statement.
Yeah, but he's never gotten that personal. He's never.
Well, that's true.
He's
I'll
never
give you that.
gotten
I'll
like my doctors and the Marlboro Man. Ed, I'm in the rearview mirror. I mean, that's dark shit. He's not really like that. So, letter number 11 comes from Robert Burton. He says, "Thanks for the awesome interview with Pete Motherfucking Thorne. I really enjoyed the stories you unearthed." He was talking about that Greg, our friend Greg Renoff, author of Van Halen Rising, and Ted Templeman, a platinum producer's life in music. So Greg, he said when he was on the Sunset Sound podcast, he said he mentioned a bunch of things. He said Greg talks about the Gene Simmons VH demos and mentions that when Gene flew the band to New York to record at Electric Ladyland, it was the first time that Al and Ed had ever been on an airplane, because I believe they came to America on a boat. And he says, how did all the Van Halen equipment make it over to New York City for the recording? Did they even use their own gear? Research on the discussion boards tells me my suspicions are likely correct that Gene recorded the band using all borrowed gear. Maybe Ed had his guitars and a few pedals, but it wasn't his Marshall or Alex's kit. I've always wondered how Gene could fuck up Van Halen. The demos I've heard sound flat, and almost could see how Bill Aucoin would pass. Greg makes another point worth noting, which is Kiss were on top of the world in 1977, and the management might have put the kibosh on Van Halen deal because they didn't want Gene distracted, interrupting the Kiss money machine. Interested in your thoughts. Robert Burton. Well, my guess, Robert, is that Van Halen were definitely not using their equipment. They would never be shipping all that stuff over there. There's no way Gene would do that. They were totally green in the studio. They were a live act. They were out of their element, completely under pressure. Plus, consider the times. The late 70s was like hard rock was fading out at the time. Disco, punk, and new wave were on the rise. They didn't see the genius of Van Halen. It really took Ted Templeman, who saw that this band had good bones and knew that if he put a little bit of polish on them, he could make them fly. So that's really how that all came together. What do you think, Dave?
I tend to agree with most of the things you said there. I, too, think the Gene Simmons demos are a little too polished. In retrospect, Ted Templeman did a better job. There was talk about, the equipment and, was Van Halen playing on their own equipment or was it rented equipment because they were going to New York? And I don't think they brought their own equipment with them. I mean, maybe Ed brought his guitar with him, like on the plane or something like that. But I don't think they brought Alex's drum kit and stuff like that. Because I even think on Gene Simmons' demos, they were almost using borrowed equipment.
Yeah, totally.
But, Ed still sounded like Ed, so that just goes to show, it's in the fingers,
Yeah,
of
course.
It's in the fingers.
The DNA. Letter number 12 comes from Ryan Clark, and he says here, hope you guys are doing well, enjoying the fall weather. I've recently been binge watching The Sopranos, and the show came out when I was way too young to watch, so I'm catching up on it now. I was shocked to see David Lee Roth randomly appear in an episode. He is in the 2004 episode titled All Happy Families. It's a cameo appearance of him playing himself in a high-stakes poker game. And this leads me to ask, what are your guys' favorite cameos/random appearances of Van Halen members? Could be in movies, TV, or anything really. My personal favorite is when Eddie and Dave appeared at the beginning of Frank Sinatra's music video, L.A. Is My Lady. Happy trails, Ryan Clark, and he's giving himself the nickname Brooklyn Ryan. So I want to say to you, Ryan, I believe Ryan's the young guy who's the Van Halen fan there. So yes, I want to tell you a little quick story, Mr. Ryan, okay? A little personal story about that Sopranos episode, Dave. Do you even remember the story?
I know there was a story behind the story.
Okay, so this is the deal. I'm going to set the stage here, Dave, and Dave knows the players involved, so you're going to get a kick out of it. So I'm a huge Sopranos fan. It's my favorite show of all time. Number 1, Van Halen, favorite band of all time, along with the Stones, okay? Then number 2, okay? So David Lee Roth, obviously one of my all-time faves. Sopranos, all-time favorite, this and that, right? So I'm watching The Sopranos when it was on, actually live airing. Back in the day, 2004, this episode comes on. I'm watching, holy shit, David Lee Roth. I didn't pass out from David Lee Roth being on the television. You know who was in the fucking show? In addition to David Lee Roth, in addition to Tony Soprano, and the entire fucking Soprano crew, Dave, you know who was on the fucking TV? My brother-in-law.
Oh, that's right.
Okay? My brother-in-law, he's an actor, and he appeared on that episode. Now, let me explain to you guys, just give you a brief idea. So when they do the all-night high-stakes poker game with the Sopranos, what these guys would do is they come to this poker game. They'd all be dressed up in, high suits, and they would stay at the game for hours. I'm talking 24 hours. I know this sounds crazy. They have a bathroom there, and they would have a guy that would serve them drinks and serve them food. Now, give an example. If anybody watches the movie Goodfellas, Michael Imperioli, who plays Spider, the guy who gets shot from Joe Pesci, he was like that kid. At the poker game, he's there to serve the guys drinks. Can I get you a sandwich? Can I get you a napkin? Whatever they needed. He was like their little patsy guy who would stand on the side, don't say anything, and he would get the guys whatever they need. That was the role my brother-in-law was playing. Do you have any idea the mind fuck? I'm watching the show. I love the show. I'm holy shit, fucking David Lee Roth. What? Wait. That's my brother-in-law. I mean, I'm watching the television. I couldn't believe it. So then when I got
he didn't tell you he was on the show?
Didn't tell me a fucking word. And then I got a hold of him, and I was like, you are on my favorite show with my favorite rock star. You know how insane I am about Van Halen. You know how insane I am about The Sopranos. And you don't say a fucking word? And he just laughed. He just laughed. To this day, he just laughed. He never said that. That's the only thing he's ever said to me about it. And I was always like, what happened? What was it like? Look at what he said. And he just said, no, nothing much. Blah, blah, blah. Oh. It drives me. That makes my blood boil. I do want to tell you, though, I'm going to share 2 quick things with you, and then we'll get Dave's thing. My favorite Van Halen cameo. It is Conan O'Brien's 10th anniversary special. Do you remember this, Dave?
I do not.
Okay, so Conan O'Brien, the late night talk show host. So now this is his first one when he took over for Letterman. It was late night with Conan O'Brien, right, on NBC. He's on at 12:30. So Conan O'Brien was celebrating his 10th anniversary, and it was a really big deal because everybody thought he would never get anywhere, but he made it 10 years, and he was having this big 10th anniversary special. So what they did was he did a big opening. He was running around New York City, and he would run into a strip club and go, "Hey guys, it's my 10th anniversary special." And everybody from the strip club would follow him like Stallone in Rocky 2 when he's running down the street.
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah.
So he's gathering people. He's running here, he's running there. Now, hundreds of people are following him to the NBC studios, and he's running through the streets of Manhattan like the scene in Rocky 2. And then one guy who's running with them goes, "Oh my God, it's David Lee Roth." And then you see Dave and he's wearing this electric blue suit, and he lifts up his glasses and he makes a Dave face with his eyes open and his big mouth, and then he starts running, and the entire crowd